Senator Leyonhjelm.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. I rise to oppose the Social Services Legislation Amendment More Generous Means Testing for Youth Payments Bill 2015. As is often the case, I suspect I'll be the only parliamentarian to do so. The government has budgeted for a $35 billion deficit this year, and the prospect of debt and deficit extends as far as the eye can see. The government acknowledges we have a spending problem, with government spending as a share of GDP being as high as any time since the early 1990s, once you account for spending that this Senate refuses to cut. But this bill allows dependent kids of asset-rich parents to get youth allowance. It's a bald-faced expansion of middle and upper-class welfare, and it will increase government spending by an estimated $263 million by 2019. Currently, youth allowance is denied to students and unemployed youth whose personal income or personal assets exceed certain thresholds. Youth allowance is also denied to students and unemployed youths who are dependent on their parents if their parents have income or assets above certain thresholds. This is as it should be. But this bill removes the asset tests. As such, students and unemployed youths who have significant personal assets or who are dependent on parents with significant assets will become eligible for youth allowance. The National Party wants the dependent kids of asset-rich parents to get welfare because some farm families are asset-rich. It has even been suggested that this bill should be renamed as the Senator McKenzie Re-election Bill. But the existing parental asset test already includes carve-outs that help asset-rich farm families. Only a quarter of the value of farm and business assets are included in the test. The family's principal home is excluded from the test, and the asset test doesn't apply if the family receives a farm household allowance. There's no problem with the definition of dependent that would justify the government's attempt to jettison the parental assets test for dependent kids either. You're defined as dependent and hence subject to the parental assets test only if you are able to live at home and you have parents who can exercise their responsibilities, and you are not a full-time student or apprentice over 21 years old, and you have not worked for 18 of the past 24 months, and you have no limits on your capacity for work or education, and you're not married or in a year-old de facto relationship, and you don't have a dependent child. This is a very restrictive definition of dependent, such that youth allowance is only ever denied to people who clearly don't need it. This bill shows the coalition government is prepared to bribe voters in the hope of retaining rural votes. It is sad to say that this government is not serious about reducing government spending and resolving our debt and deficit problem.